Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Center for Architecture and Metropolitan Planning. Welcome to CAMP, and welcome to another edition of Urban Talks. Today with Annou Ramos, director of Foundation of Mies van den Rohe, and Guillermo Sevillano from Summa Architektura, that is principal in Atelier Summa Architektura and also emerging winner of Mies van den Rohe Awards 2024. As you know, we have a new exhibition, and this is a great occasion to have these two beautiful people to talk about Mies van den Rohe Awards and about the project that was awarded by emerging winner, which is one of two awards of Mies van den Rohe Award. The first place, as you know, the most visible project is the study pavilion in Braunschweig, the Technical University. We've been there 2 weeks ago, so we have some footage and interview with authors of the building, and today we have a great opportunity to ask author of emerging project, the library in Barcelona, that you will see in a few seconds. You will be asked to ask questions while raising your hands. We will pass you a microphone, so you will be part of the discussion if you would like to. And if you are watching our stream, you are allowed to ask questions too. You can use slido.com, and I will see your answers here in my iPad. So, thank you very much for joining this event. Thank you too for joining us too. And I will ask you, Guillermo, if you will start your presentation. We are looking forward to your lecture, and we are really looking forward to see how the library was designed and how it works. So thank you very much and enjoy.
Thank you, Jure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, inviting us for explaining our project in Barcelona, this Gabriela Garcíi Márqueze library, where, as you explained, there's a model there and some panels on the project. And I will try to explain this project that took us like 8 years to project and build. It was a big effort, as in-depth as I can, given the time that we have. But first of all, I would like to introduce myself and my office. I'm the founder partner of Summa, an architectural office specialized in residential buildings and public facilities, especially libraries, as this one in Barcelona. Our work is driven by pioneering and entrepreneurial spirit, in which we develop research and sort of ecological sensitivity to approach the architectural project in a holistic way, which translates in what we call ecosystemic design. Today I'm presenting the library Gabriela Garcíi Márqueze, a building that has received many recognitions, together with the European EUmies Award. It has been declared in 2024 the best new public library in the world, and has received other recognitions as the Premi Ciudad de Barcelona and some other. I would say it's better to see in person the building, but since we're here, I will try to explain why it has deserved these recognitions. We are a small artisan studio. We work holistically, as I said, integrating research, development and management, design and construction. I would say that the expansion of our discipline and the precariousness as well of nowadays forces us to become developers and adopt unorthodox ways and roles as architects to face any commission. But we have to do so not by just working on big voids, by trying to build continuously links between what we do, we plan to do, and what sustains it. We consider ourselves as constructors of links and social bonds, and we call ourselves socio-constructivists. I guess that the social word here in Prague has a lot of connotations, but still, this is a word we like to use, expanding the social not only to human activities, but also to the architectural realm, the physical world, and the natural world, as it is. So I would say also that we are moving, as this image shows, from a prescriptive practice to a conversational one. And this is like the sort of conversation and debate we would like to have. I would like to have with you later on with Anna and the rest of the audience. In our work, we're guided by the search for innovation and singularity, understanding singularity and innovation in a sense of progress. We look for voids to be filled, a question still to be answered. In our office back in Madrid, actually, I was explaining that to your colleagues here before. Tomorrow we are submitting a competition, so our coming here was a bit difficult, and we had to stretch things. And actually, we were asked we were offered to do this presentation online. And indeed, celebrating events like this online is something that can happen nowadays, but that's actually an alternative, having something online that challenges our physical space. So I would like to ask you one question. So regarding these issues, we are enjoying this event, and some people are doing it online, but as architects or as people interested in architecture, are you concerned with the sort of implications these alternatives means to architecture? And that's an issue that affects libraries, of course, because if everything is online, why should we go to a library? And this is a question that concerns the deepest purpose of architecture, something that affects not only libraries, but Google Books and Amazon threaten libraries as much as Facebook and Twitter questions the square and public space, or Zoom, Teams, or Google Meets puts in jeopardy the offices and working spaces. And so we would like to contribute to this discussion and this question with the Gabriela Garcíi Márqueze Library and the research we did during 7 years along the project. And don't get me wrong, we love libraries in our office, old or new. And I think Prague's, this is one of the references we used from the Clementinum. But libraries cannot just be a temple of knowledge anymore. The more sanctuaries and cold containers are built, the more users will run to the warmth and comfort of their houses to use their tablets and iPhone and phones and so on to access knowledge. Or they go to social media, to social networks to enjoy the virtual forums for meetings and interactions. We will say also that flexibility has become an obsolete recipe. As long as all possible situations can be accommodated, none of them is really taking place. So we still believe that libraries are the paradigm of public space. They are our civil cathedrals in many senses. They have become catalysts and social condensers. However, from our point of view, the relevance is not based on the programs and activities they host and could be anywhere else, virtual forums, as I was mentioned. Our claim is that the relevance lies in their physicality, their unique spatial intensity, in their qualities as ecosystems. And that's our biggest challenge as designers, redefining the relationships of our built environment. We now have to design and build considering a whole new range of links, visible or not, local or global. Libraries are not mere containers in which to implement independent uses and activities. Libraries are a complex ecosystem that must be approached from a holistic and relational point of view. Thus, we assume that the overall architecture of the library, the structure, the facade, the facilities, the collection, the architectural elements, are not separate problems from one to another. They all relate in different ways. And to approach it, we have to incorporate many other things like actions, atmospheric conditions, corporeal and haptic aspects. And this implies that we are recollecting all these issues and we are putting back on the table as a brand new issue that we have to address. And we cannot, and the final result cannot be this sort of chaotic image in which we put everything together. So to really unveil and recognize and recollect all these problems, what we did with this research was to address, to unveil, reveal, or render explicit and sort the elements, agents, and actors that support our built environment. For example, if we want to attract users to a library, we will say that the book alone is not enough. This is a piece of information that anyone can access in their house or in their tablets. So we start to expand the ecosystem of the book, trying to address what are all the agents and elements that relate to the book and produce this sort of ecosystem that we want to try to work with. Okay, so somehow we are incorporating elements that are more or less evident to you, and we are acting somehow as a little bit as scenographers, describing what are the basic elements that capture and propitiate a given situation. Also, a little bit as ecologists or sociologists, looking at ecosystemic and social relationships in the built environment. Well, including this sort of collection, right, that it's telling you that's all you don't know yet, right? It's reminding you that you have to persevere studying and so on. Well, so far we are describing almost any library, but we also feel we are creators and constructors, no matter if you're an architect, an event planner, or someone trying to go farther or intensify the conditions of your built environment. And you can add new requirements. So let's try to redefine our built environment or the built environment of the library, looking at or trying to respond to the challenges and questions I was putting up before. To expand the possibilities of the library, we can consider the experience, not only what I described before, but the actual experience of accessing information, which can be radically different in some situations and others. For example, watching a monologue at home on YouTube is not the same as going to a comedy club, even if the information is actually the same. You know that you laugh so much more in the theater, you will pay for that sort of experience. And what makes the experience different is a set of conditions that are potentially transferable to the public library, properly abstracted. We put the book, that piece of information, on a stage. We change the medium and the interface. And the information becomes an event. We introduce an atmosphere of stimulation in the stalls, intensifying the experience with the anticipation of the event, and extending the experience by sharing it afterwards. That creates a whole experience. And these situations can actually take place in a library. and can be included in the functional programs, and they really make the trip to the library worth. This is an event. This is a poet in Spain that brings thousands of people together in her poetry readings. So if we want to redefine the benefits provided by physical space, we have to reach every conceivable layer. We would like to offer you a simple solution that will make us all safe, but the old standards are becoming obsolete at really fast speed. The redefinition of the library program is a reflection in which we must involve multidisciplinary teams with users, neighborhood representatives, specialized libraries, staff, support, technical specialists, architects, engineers, acoustic consultants for the conditioning of a space, scenographers and interior designers, and even sociologists and specialists in commercial spaces and neuromarketing. We're not talking about social engineering, but about having extreme sensitivity when working with our built environment. We are talking about a reflection that affects not only libraries, but our public spaces on which we build our society. And we can expand this ecosystem we are considering to encompass the city itself. Not because we want to disperse the library program, but because the public library is an intensified extension of the neighborhood it belongs to. We can consider it as a landscape folded inside the building with domestic and urban situations. Let us now look at the example of the Gabriela Garcíi Márqueze library. We have seen that libraries will not survive by giving up their physical support. On the contrary, the book is still a physical medium with unique features that represent them very well. The concept we worked with for this project, and it was a concept that we used for some other projects as well, was quite simple. And it relates with this research I'm talking about, and it has different trajectories. The concept was very simple. It was a book open with folded pages that were carved, and putting all together created this sort of bookscape or landscape of books that are translated into a building that somehow resembles the use of the library. That was the first trajectory of this idea. It was a competition we won in the Canary Islands back in 2010, and then we participated in a competition for the Helsinki Central Library, in which we were selected among 5 other teams, but we didn't win. And finally, this competition for the Gabriela Garcíi Márqueze Library was launched, and we work with this other trajectory of the same concept, stacking books together to create this building. The Gabriela Garcíi Márqueze Library is located in the district of Sant Martí in Barcelona. This is a working-class neighborhood. The people there had an active role in the result of this project. They were actually protesting for many years before the competition was launched because they felt that they were lacking, the area was lacking public facilities and infrastructures. So they wanted the city to invest in the area and to create and to build a library that was missing somehow in the big networks of library that the city offers, and that are actually very, very good. This is also a visit I recommend to you whenever you go to Barcelona. There is a wonderful network of libraries worth visiting. This is a competition launched in 2015, and well, and the building finally opened its doors in 2022. The initial site was this parking lot behind a police station. It was not the sort of place you will, more suitable for building an iconic, equipment, a facility for the neighborhood. This is a cross of two secondary streets with narrow sidewalks, and this was somehow an unremarkable site. And this is where architecture, I would say, plays a key role in transforming this place into a civic and cultural center of reference for the neighborhood. Now, this area has been converted in what neighbors call the La Verneda's Guggenheim. La Verneda is the name of the smaller neighbor in the district of San Martí, and it has become somehow a sort of touristic attraction. But this was the aspect of the site before that. So the first operations, architectural operations, were meant to create a sense of place. So instead of just following the regulations as they were in the competition, we made a series of operations. First one was to create this chamfer corner that recreates the typical chamfer corner in the Barcelona example, which is the typical grid of the city that has like a square, small square in each corner by chamfering every corner of the building. The next operation was carving the ground floor and creating a big opening that will connect with this axis that relates with all civic facilities that were in the neighborhood from 40 years ago. They were quite old already, but they were the major relationship in terms of social and cultural connection. This carving also works together with the canopy of trees that appear on the street, creating an arcade all together and an urban lounge where people can meet. Then we have different accesses and a number of big openings that relate the general mass of the building with key urban areas around it. The public facilities on the south, the big Rambla, big street here, and of course the new square that appears here by creating this chamfer corner. Then we started to articulate the mass by first create a big courtyard, a triangular courtyard that actually provides light and natural ventilation to all the floors in the building. And we divide the volume in different segments or parts that are oriented in different directions. In Barcelona, the north-south axis, it crosses in a 40 oblique way, 45 degrees rotated in this direction. This is south, and that's north. And so what we did was rotating most of the elements and working with this triangular geometry that relates with the chamfer corner, the triangular courtyard, to control this diagonal that crosses the building, gets the best natural light possible from the north, and also avoids the frontal views with the police station by looking to the canopy of trees on the street. Then we continue by doing so by working with different orientations of the elements according to the best possible view and best solar exposure possible. Internally, the volume is divided in, it's supported on 3 cores, 1 squared at the back and 2 triangulars that also help working with this geometry of diagonals that crosses the building. Inside the 2 triangular cores, we find the staircases and the elevators, and inside the square core, there are public bathrooms and facilities. The cores are connected by trusses that create a sort of denser structure for the closer areas, those areas or functions of the library that need to be more quiet or more protected, and leave some other opening areas with no structure. Inside the courtyard, there is a staircase that gets through the building vertically, making a spiral. As you can see here, and we'll get into detail later on, see that the structure has different orientations and different conditions according to the scale of the program, let's say, of the function of the program, the scale of the spaces or the scale of the user. The previous one, this is the children's library, and that's an horizontal structure that reduces the scale for children. And they have different conditions according to the orientation. This is south, and we offer there a horizontal structure to protect from the direct exposure in summer, or this diagonal condition to avoid the police station front. Or in some meeting areas, there is a more vertical lighting to help concentration and so on. And this is the envelope, which is a densification of the structure, of the geometry of the structure, in which we have panels providing these sort of folding surfaces or louvers that allow for the best views possible in every direction. This was the image. This is an update version of the image we submitted to the competition, in which you can see the sort of impact creates a building like this in a, let's say, darker neighborhood, which is far away from the lights of the central metropolis. And this was a sort of claim the neighbors were making by that time. These are some numbers of the building. It's a library of 4,000 square meters, built with a budget of ratio and closer to 2,000 euros a square meter, including furniture and equipment. And I would like to make an emphasis on the amount of timber we used for the building, because we work a lot with timber structures. In this case, made of CLT, cross-laminated timber, and glue-laminated timber. But we don't treat these structures as an industrial type, or as a log cabin, or a farm, as a sort of typology we'll find in the mountains. We work with wood, covering the whole range of intrinsic properties that it offers us, and we treat them as a large-scale artisan's work, more or less like cabinet makers do. We pay a lot of attention to the connections, the continuity of the textures, the hidden connections of the elements. It's like, cabinet making, but using huge panels like this thick, and screws that instead of being like this or something like this, but the logic and the way you work with it is quite similar. And we do it all, again, working in a holistic way. This is a video of the assembly process. Probably you all know a little bit, or you have some experience with timber structures. Usually, this technology of cross-laminated timber creates big panel surfaces, big surfaces rather than linear elements as beams and columns that we are usually work with in residential or in traditional construction. But these panels are managed with cranes, and there is intense work in developing the connections, the reinforcements, using steel there where it's more efficient, as you saw there with the diagonals. Like here, yeah, you can see there. There is a challenge in having all this amount of timber exposed because of the lightness of the material, the acoustic implications it can have. And as happened to us, this was the result because, and this is an image some months after the COVID pandemic outbreak, that stopped the work right after we finished the construction, and the timber structure was exposed to rain, dust, and pollution for many months. And we did our best to sand it and clean it afterwards, but this was the aspect some months later. That's why there's so much, so much spots and so on its surface. And as you can see, we work with the structure as it is not a separate layer of the building. It's not something we hand over to engineers. It's not just, for us, a structure is not something that just solves the varying problems of the building with the minimum amount of material. In our case, the structure of the library, it's dense, it defines the space, the orientations, the circulations. The structure is not a mere container, and it belongs to a complex ecosystem. And we stop in this space as an example where we put all these facilities under the raised ceiling that you can see here to contain all these necessary elements, because since we're exposing the slab on the top, we have to put everything on top of the slab and having this area serving both spaces up and under. But you can see here by the section the different elements that appear, not only the facilities but also the structural elements, and then later on the furniture, the collection, and how this area relates with the solar orientation. This is south, so here the louvers, horizontal louvers, are more efficient, providing the necessary shade and summer. This area also changes the scale to the users, which are children, and provides opportunities to create certain functions or new programs possible. This meant that when we were doing the project, in the first stages and we were designing the structure, we had to talk to the library staff to define what was the space that will take place here. What was the place host or the function hosted in this area? Because we understood that the users, the children, will have a relationship with the structure that we were building. This doesn't mean that you will not find an adult here enjoying this space, of course, but we find that there is an intimate connection between all the elements of the of the building. And now what we're going to do is looking at a series of ecosystems of the library as an example of what we mean by ecosystemic design and how it relates with the programmatic point of view and the research and the questions we were putting up before, and how each element accompanies each ecosystem. The research we did comprised a series of volumes with references, alternatives, and proposals for the library we were designing. First, we look at situations we found helpful to understand how the experience of access, exchange, and production of knowledge could be intensified. Then, we mix them, hybridize them, combine them in many ways, and we're going to see some of the examples we did. The first one is what we have called the Agora Showcase, which is a way to approach what happens at the entrance of the library. The goal here is that neighbors make the place their own. The arcade at the entrance of the library should enhance activity, attract citizens, and enroll users. To do so, we try to understand under what conditions neighbors take possession of the space next to their houses. What they do is, in Spanish, is tomar la fresca, something so much more than just taking a breath of fresh air. The alfresco meetings take place under the cover of shadows and thresholds, sheltered from the heat in the afternoon in large places, but cool where there is air movement, but also with the excuse of a common activity and the distraction of an event, children playing or people passing by. This is how neighbors take over public space at the threshold of their private properties, bring their chairs out into the street and make the place their own. But interesting enough, we can look at the similarities with other more cultural activities like tertulias, jam sessions, or elements like that. It also relates with the showcases you can find in the streets and how the library can offer different conditions to how they can offer the collection in different ways and conditions, being inspired by other situations like the ones I'm showing. And to do so, we develop the designing of this furniture, which is modular and can be combined in different ways. It also implied creating a threshold in the perimeter of the library relating with this ground floor with big windows that can be open and curtains that can create a space that is now becoming part of the outside when the weather conditions are fine, which is most of the year, I would say, in a city like Barcelona. This is a 10 meters span opening that provides this sort of opportunity to enjoy this space. Libraries can be sceneries of empowerment, transmission of past and contemporary activities, daily and eventual social practices. All of it guarantee better access, exchange, and production of knowledge. Again, we need new ecosystems in which architecture, collection, activities, users, and environments form a coherent network. The next space or ecosystem is what we call the Forum of Ideas and Activities, and take place at the entrance of the library. The library, as a space for access and exchange knowledge, is a forum of ideas, indeed. As an agora, it competes with virtual forums and social networks, but also the tertulias and gatherings that happen outside its doors in bars and squares, the offices of doctors and psychologists, and the sofa in our homes. All these different interfaces offer possibilities that the library can include inside its program, or should be able to assimilate. To its credit, the library offers an institutional physical medium capable of translating all these different phenomena within its doors and enhancing and intensifying them. To do so, in one of the spaces of the library, we propose these translucent curtains to provide different spaces for gatherings with different conditions, so multiple activities could take place, even a lonely study like this one. The third ecosystem is the spiral of encounters and senses. And we understand that this is a key space or element of the library, because not only because it relates with the spiral staircase that goes through the library, but because of the public is defined as, or the condition of publicness is defined as the probability of an unexpected encounter. Going to the library is a journey of interactions. 6 books as 6 encounters. Today, one searches for magazines and films as one encounters work or a new orientation for life, the possibility of addressing social problems or political activities. The library should not be so much a collection or repository of objects that the user goes to look for. It is more a network of multiple itineraries with a great potential for transformation. What matters, as happens in the Wizard of Oz, is not the destination, but the journey itself. And not only the user should move, but also the collection in a way. So we propose these trolleys as a device for displaying the collection in motion, as happens in airplanes where the staff moves around passengers. So at the end, the library offers this spiral stair that connects all the open spaces, because if the library revolves around a collection, let it be a collection of ecosystems, environments, and unique situations that intensify access, exchange, and production of knowledge. In this case, we were a little bit, we had a lot of doubts when we were designing this area, because we had not many references about how a triangular courtyard will work. We understood that usually courtyards work separating spaces, as centrifugal areas, splitting the different parts of the building. But this triangular atrium works as a centripetal space that link the different parts of the building visually. The spiral stair and open spaces produce a promenade that offer multiple perspectives. The spaces are permeable and light and offer multiple itineraries to the users. And finally, back to the book, and the last ecosystem we want to talk about is responding to the question, how do we read? Libraries are becoming institutions with the capacity to intensify what happens in the city and also what happens in our homes. Again, we want to be inspired by how we read at home or in the park or in groups or, with others. So what we did was looking at all these different conditions of reading and accessing knowledge again, and trying to recreate them inside the library, providing a range of situations in which anyone can find their best spot. Also, we developed research around how the collection should work and the sort of experience it could offer by providing different conditions for searching and reading and elements of attraction. The result was this palace of reading, as we call, offering these sort of domestic conditions, or even this element that somehow resembles some of the conditions that we will find in a place like Colombia, where García Márquez was born. And we don't have much more time, so we are missing a lot of things. There is a radio inside, there is a kitchen, which are sort of typologies that were quite unusual in the libraries of the network in Barcelona. And there are some quotes as well from García Márquez in the envelope of the building. Sits like dinosaur eggs. If you read 100 Years of Solitude, you might remember them. And a lot of anecdotes, difficulties, and suffering. But we'd like to finish with two images. One actually contradicts all this effort behind this work. It offers this light corner. This traditionally should be the strongest point of the building. It should be, an Herculean spot where you can tell the load forces are traveling downwards. But here the structure is recessed, and the trusses connect with this core in different floors, and the different typologies of the structures and the lightness and slenderness of the different structural elements offer this sort of light corner, like as if there was no effort behind. And on the apparent, let's say the apparent opposite of lightness, we have this image of the opening day, a load test for the structure using human beings. Not something I will recommend. That's something we passed with our best poker face during the opening. But these two images are not contradictory, but complementary. What makes possible structural lightness is social heaviness. Infinite social connections support the library Gabriela García Márqueze. Hundreds of technicians and workers giving their best. The eagerness and an active role of thousands of neighbors. The support and institutional culture of Barcelona to develop a project like this. That's what made actually the Gabriela García Márqueze Library possible. And this is just credits for just a few of them, but it's a long list anyhow. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. That was the first time since foundation of camp we had credits after the presentation. It was really nice. And I would like to ask you both to join me here on stage, and we'll start with a little discussion. So you feel free to ask questions. Okay, I will be in the middle, for example. Oh, you can be here. Okay. Feel free to ask questions. You can raise your hand, or you can fill them on Slido. Anna, welcome to camp, of course. Annou Ramos, she's director of Foundation of Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, and which is organizer of the Mies van der Rohe Awards. And I would like to ask you to briefly introduce the foundation, because what was the reason why it was actually established, and what was the next step after you reached the first goal? Yeah, I have microphone for you. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. The Mies van der Rohe Foundation was created back in 1983 to make possible the reconstruction of the Barcelona pavilion designed by Mies van der Rohe and Lili Reich back in 1929 for the international exhibition, which was demolished shortly after when the international exhibition finished, but was kept in the memories through photographs, descriptions, in the books, in the exhibition, and it was one of the milestones of modern architecture. And then some group of architects in the 50s already were willing to reconstruct the pavilion. They wrote a letter to the master, who was kind of agreeing, although he would have preferred to get a new commission, because if you're architects or creative minds, you know, you would like to be able to address the same problem, but after years of experience, you would do it differently, always, yeah? If you started today the library again, there will be like things done differently because you have changed it from 2015 to today. But that's life. Well, anyway, it was not possible at the moment due to the social and economical conditions of Spain at the time, which was still under the dictatorship of Franco. And only in the 80s, when democracy came back, and the municipality was eager to reconstruct the pavilion. At the time, Mies van der Rohe was dead already, but the foundation was created. And a group of architects did this whole research for the reconstruction, and it was opened to public in 1986. But not only as a museum or as a monument, but as an active institution. So we do foster a program of cultural dissemination of architecture, of the added value of architecture. We run a program of interventions in the Barcelona pavilion itself. We invite artists and architects to transform the space, so it's a platform for experimentation, as it was in 29, as it was in 86. And very soon we established this European Award for Architecture. We just started on our own at the beginning. The Fundació I didn't mention, but it's a public entity of the Barcelona City Council. So we started the program in our own, but shortly after it became the European Union Prize for Contemporary Architecture, which is officially since 2001, to say, yeah? So that's one of our main tasks, try to gather together all of the best European architecture and invite jurors. The jury changes in every 2 editions, and we invite them to think what means excellence in architecture first, and second, look amongst the nominated project, which ones can represent excellence in architecture. And obviously, as we have just seen, this library represents that.
We have seen the story behind it, and we have to agree that it is an example of excellence in architecture. Mies van der Rohe Award is very prestigious, and you have to keep eye on it and be aware of keeping that prestigious status. What do you have to be aware of? What do you have to do every year, every second year, to be still the prestigious award and be, you know, because there are 362 nominations, and you can't be just, you can't register yourself nominate yourself for the competition, but others have to do it for you, and it means that it has to have some renommé. What do you have to do to keep that?
Well, like everyone, you have to do your job as well as you can, and trying to do it the best, not for you, but for the goal you are aiming to pursue. Then our goal is to pursue, to research, to get to know what's the most interesting things that are happening today that might be teaching us some new things. Each of us, practicing architects, doesn't matter how long you've been practicing, you can always learn things from something that a colleague of you is doing in another place. So that aim of pedagogy, and not only to architects, also to society, so policymakers, politicians, clients. So this aim of trying to learn something, that's what moves us, and I think that's very important. Then also the process, which is very democratic, I would say, because there is a first nomination, which comes either from other national associations of architects, but also independent experts. So we have this cross, like sometimes we could have like nominations which are more like the established ones, but the independent experts are helping us to really see things that might be a little hidden, but they get to know them. So thanks to them, we get to know them. So we have this initial list, which this year was 362, from 41 countries in Europe, so all of the EU member states, plus those European countries which want to have cultural agreements with EU member states. Then we have a second layer, which is the jury. The jury is appointed in every edition with a mix of gender, age balance, cultural regions of origin, because we Europeans are pretty similar, but we have some differences. And those are very much connected actually to the climate zones, probably, where we will live, and the geographical areas. If it's the sea, if it's the mountains, if it's the flat land, that is more important at the end than the nationalities, we think. But then with this jury, the first question to them is, what is excellence in architecture? And then they start on their own. They are independent. We're not telling them any criteria. We just want them to be really true and have this aim to know more and to disseminate. Then dissemination is very important. I mean, the transparency of the process is very important. The reasons for the jury to appoint one winner or another are very clear. The catalog, you have the catalog over there with where we publish not only the proceedings, but even the opinion, like every juror is writing an essay on how they felt the process or what they want to stress. So we think transparency is very important because one jury could appoint one winner and another jury could appoint another winner. We know if now I choose 7 of you, you would make a selection, and you other 7, you will make another selection. The most important thing is that you explain your reasons and you explain your reasons, so we other can agree or disagree, but we understand what are the points of interest. So this dissemination later comes through exhibitions, through the catalog, through videos. We have all these YouTube videos with interviews to the, because our role is to give the word to the winners so they can express their own ideas and start these conversations. And that's how we do it, and luckily it works.
There are 40 shortlisted projects and 7 finalists. You visit 40 projects or 7 finalists?
That I didn't mention, but the jury from 360 goes to 40. That's very tough. That's what makes this exhibition. In my opinion, these 40 are in every edition really the important thing, because it shows very well. And in that case, almost any jury would probably appoint those 40, right? Because it condenses very much what's happening today in Europe. Then they go to the finalists, and the finalists are the ones we visit. So they have to appoint finalists that could be winners, right? It's only really those that you think, this could be a winner, but I need to see it. This could be a winner, but I really would like to see it. And then we organize this incredible tour of Europe, 10 days, visiting all these.
10 days.
Yeah, visiting. It should be a week, but the week is very difficult, and depending on where the buildings are, so it makes 8, 9 days.
I think it's pretty fast, 10 days.
Yeah, it's exhausting, but you know what it takes to 9 days in the life of these super important people who are our jurists. That's a luxury, and visiting is really key. I mean, I remember when we visited the library with the jury, which in that occasion is easier because the jury meets in Barcelona and the building is in Barcelona.
But that's the moment that
was incredible.
Yeah, that's the moment I'm interested in, because you can't nominate yourself for the exhibition. Someone had to do awards. Someone had to do it, and it means that architects and authors, they are not able to present their work. They have pictures, they have articles, whatever, but they are not able to present the building to the jury. But they are able to do it when they are visiting, because they are aware that they will be there.
Yes, but only for the architecture winners, not for the emerging. Because when we visit the emerging finalists, then we don't always ask the architects to come. So we visited in secret. They could not explain in that moment to the jury. But for the finalists of the architecture, yeah, we speak to all of them, to the director of the institution, to the users, to the architect, to the builder, to the passers-by in the street. Yeah, of course, we are curious. We want to know if this is really working or everything was just beautiful words and nice photos.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to know, if they are like more confident because they know that they are in the 7 finals, or if they are more nervous because they almost did it, you know.
They are very nervous because they don't want to be finalists. They want to be the winner.
Okay, thank you. There is a question about the library itself. It's about the square, the agora, in front of the building. Why it's not on the same level as the street? Is it some like a semi-private space that you wanted to create?
Well, this is a result of different aspects we considered during the process of the project. First one was that we have a basement that is facing a courtyard that is located on 2 sides, on the two back sides of the building, and this is an area with an independent access. So the multipurpose room is located, so it has to work during the closing hours of the library. So it needs an independent access through a ramp that goes through that courtyard to the basement. So the basement, this is a difficult balance between what is accessible. So we have as many levels accessible. The building at the end has a small footprint regarding the overall size, and that means that it has multiple levels. We found that it was important to not having the sensation of having a basement being underground, but what you have when you go to the lower floor is that you're facing a courtyard or a garden, which is nice, but that level needs to be accessible. So there is a ramp, and the requirements for the ramp are quite strict. So the balance between having both levels accessible means lifting up a little bit the ground floor and created that urban lounge that it's a little bit detached from the pedestrian side. The pedestrian area was proposed after, once we were during construction. So when we were designing this, there were cars on that side. So we found it was important to provide a certain sense of protection and enclosed environment. Also because it was going to work as an agora showcase, bringing chairs outside. So it was a balance between, the lower floor, the ground floor, the sort of urban lounge that we wanted to create under this arcade. And at the end, I think it works, and it's accessible enough, and it's permeable, and it really fosters the interaction. And there's always a lot of people sitting in these steps, different ways, being attracted by the library.
I was surprised.
If I can say, yeah. I think it's good luck that you have to do this because it's a really tremendous good public space, and having some. I mean, the Barcelona Pavilion has this podium, right? And when you go up to the podium, you are in the building while you're still outside, right? So this podium effect, it creates really a very powerful entrance to this. It's a small library. I mean, it's very big, but it's a program of a neighborhood library, right? It's not the central library, but all these kind of mechanisms provided with a dignification of the place. I think it's a super podium.
Yeah, I think it's a nice example of recreation of the typical structure of the Barcelona city blocks, because you mentioned that it's kind of recreation of it, but the typical block of where the 4 blocks meet, there's only facades. There is no public space. There's a public space, but there is something like a cafe, a facade of the building, etc. But there is no space that you can go inside, that you are still not in the building, but you are already enjoying the architecture and you are in the semi-public space, as I mentioned. So this is like you have the area when you are on the street, out of the building, and you enter it, which is the different level. How this helps to reconnect with the community around it, because it's something that people they think that they already know it. It's something very typical for Barcelona, but it's new in their neighborhood. You mentioned that they were like hungry for investments in their neighborhood. They wanted something new, and they have one of the best libraries in Spain now in their neighborhood next to their residential buildings. How this helped to reconnect with them? It's like that they are not afraid to go there, even if they are not going to library very often, or something like that.
Well, I will say that it has been the most or the best recognition we're getting so far is from the people from the neighborhood of Barcelona. And going to the library every time we go there, because we go many times to attend different issues and modifications and improvements and so on. It's we're always happy to see the smiling faces of the users, of the staff, how they enjoy the place, and I think they're very proud of the building and what it has implied to the neighborhood in many ways. We always recall one quote from an old neighbor, an old lady coming into the building the opening day of the ceremony. You have to imagine that this building has been under construction for 3 years, and they have seen it from outside, but they haven't seen the interior. They've seen the envelope with fences and so on, and one day the fences are removed, they are called, this is the opening day, and they get inside this investment that they have claimed for many years. And I remember this was an old lady in their 80s, or something like that, getting inside and say, what have I done to deserve this? And this is something the mayor told them, and during the speeches, they say, it's yours, it's your palace. It's, we cannot give you a palace to each one of you, but we can have this public facility in which you will feel dignified and you will feel like you don't want to leave it, because it's welcoming you, it's providing all the resources architecture can offer, or we can offer as architects, to make your experience as best as possible.
Thank you. I will ask you if someone wants to ask a question. Feel free to ask. We will pass you a microphone. Yes, in the front row. Thank you very much. Welcome.
Thank you for the amazing lecture. I'm super surprised what you can create from the wood in Spain, because it seems to me that it's impossible in Czech to build the building like that. And my question is, if something happened after the Mies van der Rohe, that you've been in the finalist for your office, if you can feel in the office that maybe you are more invited into some competition or something like that?
That's a good question, and it's a question that we get a lot. And I would say, sadly, architecture is very slow, and the effect of these awards, as we've been told, takes some time. So we've been actually told that some guy won, I don't know what award, and it was not until 5 years later that they get an actual commission that they can trace back to the award. So in our case, I wouldn't say we have got commissions or invitations to restricted competitions or things like that yet. We have, it's true that we have been able to partner up with maybe bigger offices and submit some curriculum and so on, but we haven't been invited or appointed yet. We are still waiting for that, but yeah, it's been a big push anyhow for the office, and we've got a lot of recognition.
You agreed with one thing with Anna, that you might change something about the library. Now when you see it, you mentioned that it was few months without the facade, just under the rain. What would you change? What would be, if you would like to change something to make it better, what would be?
Well, I would say that there are a lot of things that we have we've seen that, I mean, we should have done maybe differently, or we can improve. We tend to, even when we were asked to repeat, you know, to do the same version of the previous project, we always try to change things and improve things. I mean, I would say that probably, maybe this is from a private and a personal experience, the thing I will change that probably we will not do it, or we were probably not able to make the same effort we did for this library again. We had a lot of problems, obstacles. I could speak for hours about that. We had even health issues because of the amount of stress, and amount of problems. It was a lot of responsibility. The pandemic also got through. The contractor, not the actual staff from the contractor at the site that were very helpful, but the contractor was, doing things backstage, trying to take us out of the hiring full professors of the University of Catalonia to make reports on the building saying this is a disaster, this is going to fail in many ways, you have to get rid of the architects and put somewhere else. And we had to fight against all that and the amount of stress it created, and we feel so attached to the project that we didn't we put all the resources we have. Barcelona pays very well, in terms of fees. Any project, they value architecture a lot, but not even what they pay can actually pay for something like this. It needs, a lot of people giving their best, no matter how much they're paid. And we know that the last 3 years of the construction, we paid everyone we worked with, but we didn't get any money. So it's not about the money. It's also about the personal effort something like this demands. And I'm not sure if we were able to do it again if a possibility opened up.
Yeah, thank you that you are sharing that. I think it's very interesting to hear this. There is a question for Anna about the qualities of architecture. What qualities of architecture do you think will be the most important in the next 10 or 20 years? And what trends you believe are shaping architecture today? So maybe you can even compare it with architecture 10 years back when you consider results of the awards. So this is a very wide question, but I think it's interesting to answer it.
Something very interesting that we are seeing is something that Guillermo has just mentioned, which is the, I wouldn't say passion, the need to do the best. So this research in-depth, super in-depth research that many offices are doing now, getting to know very well the materials they are working with, understanding the technologies that could apply better to their concept, understanding the needs of the users, but the real needs, not only the program that was in the competition, but as Guillermo said, speaking to the librarians, really to understand how the children's area is going to be used. This kind of architecture that is not generalistic, but really site-specific and program-specific and technology-specific is something that is giving us incredible examples of architecture works throughout Europe. And I see it as good news, right? Instead of something that could be done here and repeated and repeated and repeated and reallocated anyway. This is not meaning that, of course, there has to be a balance, right? And we see very often in the emerging category that you really give everything what you have, because at the beginning of a career that's what you do, all of us. But we see architects that are progressing and keeping kind of are being able to keep that spirit of being very open to implement and do new research and implement new materialities or new technologies and do very thorough research, but still have healthy running offices, let's say. No? So these of the research and knowing very well what you want to deliver and knowing very well what tools do you have to deliver what you want to deliver, this is something that is very positive, and I wouldn't say it has changed because there were always offices working like that, but now they are more valued by us. And then, of course, by us, I mean by the awards, by the media, by the museums. Then, of course, anything connected with social values and sustainable values are, of course, implemented 100% now, which maybe 10, 15 years ago, only some projects had it. Now it's there and it's natural, so it's not anymore that, how is sustainable architecture? Well, our architecture has to be sustainable, and it's starting to happen, right? Like, so it's, and there are different architects implementing it in a different way in their projects. So, so the social, sustainable, and site-specific, I think, is what we have, luckily, to me.
Thank you. So time for another question from audience. Anyone? Yeah? I'm sorry. Yeah, there, on the top. I'm sorry, the light is too strong. Welcome to camp.
Hello, thank you. First of all, when I'm visiting Barcelona next time, it's definitely on my visit list, so I'm looking forward to see it on my own eyes. And the question is, was there a lot of skepticism when the project was announced publicly, or it was largely welcomed? The reason I'm asking is because, for example, there will be a new Philharmonic being built, or the project is already on in Prague, and seeing various feedbacks is kind of interesting. So I'm wondering what was the reaction about such an ambitious project in the neighborhood area. And the second one would be if you are, because so this was finished in 2022, if I heard correct, so it's two years present. Are you aware of some, let's say, effects of gentrification on the neighborhood, or like what are people, if they are happy, or if there's like I guess you know where I'm heading to.
Yeah. That's an issue that we've got some comments on the gentrification, and so it's always a balance. Last week, I think we got not a critique, it was a media essay on the dealing on other things and how neighborhoods were being gentrified and how people were I don't know, expelled or from their areas, from their old-time neighborhoods and so on, and they mentioned this library as something that has been, I don't know, announced, for example, in a real estate ad for a house or an apartment being sold next to Gabriela Garcíi Márqueze library, you know, just one block away, or with views to the. So, yeah, it creates, and I remember we were saying in the office, okay, next time we have to do it worse, right? That's the conclusion. Or what should we do? I mean, we did this with a budget of, with this rate of 2,000 euros per square meter, which at least in Spain is not a big investment in terms of radio. It means the money was well used and it was efficiently put wherever it needed. It has also, of course, created and improved many things in the neighborhood as the neighbors demanded, and probably has produced some effects on the real estate market. And there's always a balance of. I was mentioning before that when to Giri during our conversation, that this competition was launched by the previous administration of Barcelona. And when the next one from Ada Colau, and there was a, let's say, left-wing, very social, took over, they stopped the big investments in the city, and they promote others, or they keep pushing others, all of them under, more or less under, the idea was to promote projects, or to keep on developing projects under 10 million euros, which was the case of this library. They didn't want like the big hits or the, you know, anymore, because the city didn't need to attract more tourists, which is a key problem nowadays. But they had to keep on improving the network of facilities in the building. So they decided that this was a sort of very iconic or representative example of their line of investment in terms of public facilities, and they pushed a lot in this with this library. That was very, very helpful because a lot of, you know, issues came along the way. So I think that was important. And your first question was regarding what was the effect at the beginning and how it evolved. I think in terms of the architecture itself, it was very well accepted from the very beginning. Actually, there were representatives of the neighborhood in the jury. I think they didn't have the right to vote, but they had a voice at least. And there is a lot of sensibility in Barcelona. Not only with neighbors, I would say even with cats. I mean, they are very sensitive about any actor, you know, having an effect. So they listen a lot to their wills, and probably that was one of the reasons we won. We were very, very lucky to win because we're not from Barcelona. We're from Madrid. This was our first competition in Barcelona, so we didn't know where we were heading to. We didn't know about this social situation in San Martí, and we proposed what we thought it was best. But it was a time in which architecture proposals were really, let's say, afraid to risk, or with a very low profile in terms of volumes or spaces, because we were just heading out of the economic crisis. It was not a time for doing a Guggenheim, as I was mentioning before. But the neighbors were probably saying, this is the sort of investment we want. We want something that we find a sort of identity, but not in terms of identity. It's something that provides the quality and the sort of spaces we want to. And one of the things that happens, when it was an anonymous competition, they open the envelopes and they say, that's what they told us, who the hell are these guys? And at the beginning, I remember the first meeting, they were looking at us like, do you have any experience? Or and when we mentioned that we had already made this project for the Canary Islands and our experience in the Helsinki Central Library, they feel more relaxed. And then Libraries of Barcelona, who's an institution with a very open-minded approach, they found, okay, this project could be, let's say, a prototype to develop or to change the typology of the spaces and so on. And we said, okay, we have a lot of things in our mind, let's share. And we start a conversation for many years, which I think relates with what Anna was saying, that we're no longer, as architects, we have like a bad reputation. I don't know here in Prague how you are perceived, but at least in Spain we come from these days in which the architect was sort of this egomaniac guy who will prescribe things from, I don't know, his hill or his throne, and will not dare to engage with others. But at least the next generations and so on, we are very committed to develop this sort of social engagement and develop the projects in a sort of conversational approach. And I think it's completely different, and it's harder, of course, and it requires a lot of effort and passion to move away a little from the standards, because architecture is a standardized practice. And whenever you move away an inch from the standard, you have to fight a lot. And if you're trying to move, very far away from it, it requires a huge effort.
Thank you, Anna. All the 7 finalists are public buildings, financed by the public sector, and you are able to visit them when you would like to. And is it something like a trend? Is it something that you see in last editions of the awards, or is it sign of something, according to your opinion?
It's not that they are all public buildings. Some of them are private. For instance, the school is a private school. In that case, the miracle is that the owner of the school really is someone that knows what she wants and is able to match with an architect who can follow. So this is to say that we can find this in the public or in the private sector. The good examples of the public sector, like this library or like some social housing I am now recalling also in Barcelona, is because the director of the agency of libraries or the agency of housing is someone who's also willing to push borders. Same happened with the Lacaton and Basal winning project in Bordeaux in 2019 edition of the EUmies Award. It was possible because the director of the public housing agency in Bordeaux wanted to push boundaries of the standard practice. So we can find it either in public or private. It is true that luckily more and more the public commissions are going through competitions. It is mandatory in many countries. And those public competitions means that there is a jury involved with representatives of the Order of Architects or of the civil society or of the neighbors. So the more open and transparent are the proceedings of the public competitions, the better architecture we get. Also, it is very important and the definition of who can participate in the competitions, because there are sometimes barriers of previous expertise or economic capacity that sometimes refrains to smaller offices and also allows big names to participate. And we have to be careful with that because sometimes big names are less passionate for site-specific high-quality architecture. And luckily, there are sometimes private clients that are also creating competitions, even if they don't have to, but they really want the added value of better architecture, so they create open, transparent competitions. Generally speaking, most of the cases, yes, public commitments tend to have higher quality. But it's not like that in all of the countries yet. So we need to deliver, if there is any public administration officer here, stand for quality in architecture. We're not delivering standard products like chairs or wires, technical cables or something. We are providing site-specific projects. So they need to be well paid. They need to be in fair conditions for the access to the profession.
Thank you. So last questions for you both. For Guillermo, was the wooden construction something that was part of the brief, or it was your proposal to use this material and these techniques?
It was not part of the brief. It was our proposal, even though again, a lucky strike. There was someone in the chief of architecture. By then, it was Vicente Guayart, who was part of the jury. He was a lot into pushing timber construction in the city, and it is still, even in Barcelona or other parts of north of Spain, a question. As architects, we make ourselves, so it's should we submit this in timber, or we will find sort of resistant, or depending on the typology or because we assume that it's more expensive, and there are some things that need still to be developed and so on. So again, it's necessary to have public investments that really promote the use of timber, because this is a sort of culture that we've lost because as humankind, we had the knowledge and the capacity to build things in timber for thousands of years. Then iron and concrete get in the way. We lost forest, we lost landscape we have, and the sort of resources we have, and the knowledge we have, and we are now recovering it while developing new alternatives like cross-laminated timber and so on. And I would say that as a society, we still have to define what will be the aspect or the sort of culture, architectural culture regarding this material, because it requires new ways, new knowledge. We need to adapt how it works, understand it, and prevent its difficulties, and take advantage of all its benefits. But at the same time, we have to see how the future cities will look like, as happened when steel changed the shapes of our cities in the late 19th century.
And Anna, I know that Barcelona is going to host the World Architecture Congress, and by the date you would like to open a new institution similar to CAMP or other centers of architecture around the world. And I would like to ask you, what do you think that the actual debate about the city and a relationship between citizens and people from boroughs and the city hall, etc. What is needed now? What is the trend that you would like to achieve? What is the goal that you would like to achieve with this venue? What Barcelona is missing right now, and what would you like to get with the Center of Architecture?
Well, in 2026, Barcelona will be the World Capital for Architecture, appointed by UNESCO, because, yes, it will host the World Congress of Architecture of the International Union in Architects. The Congress will take place in summer, early July, and the World Capitality is a cultural program throughout the whole year. So the City Council and the Fundación Mies van der Rohe is hosting the technical office for the organization of all of this. The City Council wants the Capitality, the program of the World Capital, to be a tool to disseminate among citizens the added value that architecture can bring into their daily lives, into our daily life. So it will be a program specially addressed to general audience, to general public. There are issues like the push of the City Council for timber construction, or the push for affordable housing, or there are some pushes that are, of course, are part of the political agenda of whoever the mayor is, but it's true that there are trends that are able to go through different political changes and still be there, yeah? Pedestrianization of public space, there are these kind of things that amongst architects are well known, even internationally, but sometimes the locals are not really aware of it. And the municipality would like to create this conversation with its fellow citizens and with the neighbors, so they feel more engaged with that. And discussing also issues that might worry them, like gentrification that was mentioned before, or other problems. So this will be the program throughout the year with the exhibitions from the City Council itself, but also we have opened a call which received more than 200 proposals from the stakeholders in the city, proposing exhibition, guided tours, etc., which will be for locals or for any visitor of the city. And hopefully that will leave a legacy of a space for architecture where these conversations can be engaged, like what you have here, guys, in camp. This is not 100% sure yet, so I have to stop here, but I hope we have good news soon and we can tell you more.
Thank you both very much. It was a very interesting lecture and very inspiring time with you. Annou Ramos and Guillermo, Sevillano.
Thank you.
So, and thank you too very much for your interest in architecture. And if you would like to see the lecture again or share it with someone, you will find it on our website and Facebook, and enjoy the exhibition. Thank you very much.